Before I start, I must thank Dr. S.K. Pal sir, who is the organizing chairman. Actually, in India, S.K. Pal sir is known for PCNL. Even though there is no need to introduce, it's my formality to introduce sir as the senior consultant urologist from Apollo Hospital and Holy Family Hospital. Uh, since my MCH days, I know sir when I was in Chandigarh and Delhi AIMS. He developed special interest in urolithiasis since 1986 and devoted his career on stone disease. He completed 10,000 PCNL operations in July 2018. And as we all know, PERCON, he conducted 8 large international live operative workshops in New Delhi on the name of PERCON. Last was in 2018, attended by 840 delegates. He also participated as live operating faculty for demonstration of various types of PCNL surgeries in 182 live operative workshops all over globe, including China, Turkey, Doha, France, Netherlands, Iraq, Pakistan, also Philippines and Nepal. He has been invited to deliver talks on various aspects of PCNL in international meetings of Society of International Urology, European Association of Urology, World Congress of Endourology, Challenges in Endourology, expert in stone disease, and during annual meetings of Chinese Urological Association, East Asian Society of Endourology, Pakistan Association of Urologists, Vice President of International Alliance of Urolithiasis, and President Golden Bridge Urological Association. I only remember when he sits and does half sitting to acquaint yourself your position to go to a proper calyx. That picture always is there in my mind. With this introduction for such a senior surgeon in India, we are all proud of you, sir. And I am thankful for being organizing chairman. With this introduction, now I will give the precedence to S.K. Pal sir so that he will conduct the session. We will all listen from the speakers. Thank you. I will stop my screen. Over to S.K. Pal sir.
Do I come and I remember all my, because I have started doing way back in 96, and now after 34 years, I am more into the training young urologists how to do PCNL, and it gives me a great satisfaction when my trainees, they are doing good.
Sir, 1 second, go back to the slide, sir. I want to say 2 things because those beginners were not there. 182 live operative workshops all over the globe, China, Turkey, very few people operating China and France. You are one among them. And your PERCON conference, usually I attended, usually it will be more than 600, 700 with all full. You demonstrate nearly 2-3 surgeries with all aspects. These two I wanted to tell the public, audience, I mean, the urologists are watching. A legend in PCNL surgeon will give talk while he is doing on table, what are the problems you face. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chandra. I have made 24 visits in China, and I was really very happy when they had not seen the the standard PCNL of 30 French track. And I cannot forget those moments when out of 30 French track, I will pick out a 1 centimeter stone and the whole crowd will say, ooh. And similarly in Iraq, it was a very good experience. I have really enjoyed teaching and training people in PCNL. The first step of PCNL is ureteric catheterization. It should never be underestimated. Even if you are doing a redo, again, relook PCNL, you should always put a ureteric catheter because it opacifies pelvic calyceal system. It also helps in distension of pelvic calyceal system when you are placing the guide wire, and it makes some space between the stone and the pelvic calyceal system. So guide wire can glide inside. Then it is the only way of confirmation of accurate puncture by obtaining a free flow. This also prevents, because of physical presence of the ureteric catheter, it prevents migration of calculi into the ureter. Then even if some fragments had gone back, you can go back and then flush back the stone fragments which had gone down into the ureter. Sometimes there is so much of edema, pus, infection, everything is red and blue and you don't know. where the PUJ is. So PUJ can be identified if you have a ureteric catheter inside the pelvic calyceal system. It can help in placement of DJ stents by getting the guide wire in. And sometimes when there is a avulsion injuries, pelvic calyceal perforations, at that time, if you are not able to even put a ureteric double J stent, at least there is a ureteric catheter in which will provide different drainage in difficult situations. So never underestimate ureteric catheter. You must put it. But there will be situations which I am going to discuss with you when you cannot identify the ureteric orifice, or when you pass the ureteric catheter and the contrast doesn't go inside the system. And as in Indian scenario, most of us, we don't have license to have ultrasound units in our operation theaters. We don't have ultrasound technology in our operation theaters. So in such situation, what should we do? I will be discussing in a few slides on that. And the last, if time permits, if the contrast extravasation takes place, how we can deal with the case.
Sir, please increase
So,
your voice, sir. Somebody can call, sir, increase your voice.
okay. So this is the situation. Now is it better, more
Yes, sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the situation when you inject the contrast and you are not in. Now take for instance this particular case. This was a 32-year-old male who underwent PCNL elsewhere for this stone. There was a lot of jugularity. The surgery took about 3 to 3.5 hours, and then the patient was sent home after 3 4 days. But he continued to have dull continuous pain in right loin. This was done by a friend of mine somewhere else, and the patient continued to have high fever and chills and rigors every 7 to 14 days. He was almost continuously on antibiotics. Urine culture was always growing Escherichia coli, and ultrasound showed a moderate hydronephrosis with remaining some residual stones inside with echogenic shadows in the upper ureter. My friend had done a at X-ray KUB as well as an IVU, and this is the picture with which he sent the patient to me. Now it is not very clear where the stones are, and CT revealed everything. Some stones are inside the pelvic calyceal system, maybe in the upper ureter. One stone is in the lower calyx and one is outside the system. I am sure when I am going to inject the contrast from below, nothing will go in. I have anticipated this problem. Another case where there is a long stone impacted at the PUJ and there is an inferior calyceal stone. This is the IVU. I know it is possible that when I pass the ureteric catheter, dye will not go in. But at the same time, when in these two cases, I study the IVU, I can see there is a contrast appearing in the pelvic calyceal system. I have anticipated the problem, and the best way is to inject the contrast even before. Because if the ureteric catheter does not go in, at least you should be able to see the pelvic calyceal system when you take the patient to operation theater. And when is the best time to do it? When should IV contrast be injected? Not on table when you are in problem and you have passed the ureteric catheter and dye is not going in. You should see that the serum creatinine is normal, and the main thing is patient should be dehydrated for 6 to 8 hours. So even before when the patient is being taken through the operation theater, you should inject the contrast then and there, so that by the time patient goes in, he is given spinal or general anesthesia and put in position. There should be about 60 to 40, 45 to 60 minutes have elapsed, and the contrast has started appearing inside. Not only that, when the patient is in the ward, patient is under your control. This is the practical problem. Once he reaches to the operation theater, our anesthetist colleagues will even immediately start intravenous. There will be a lot of fluid will be pumped in. And secondly, a big problem I had in a big hospital, when anesthetists refused to give intravenous contrast injection. They said they have never used this particular medicine inside the operation theater, so they are not familiar with this, they will not give. So such situation will not arise when the patient is in the ward itself. You should start giving the, you can order and you can get the IV contrast injected. Then you take the patient in so that everything goes smooth when the patient is in operation theater. If your ureteric catheter is not opacifying the pelvic calyceal system, automatically your IV contrast has started showing it. Another situation, this is a 34-year-old male. Obviously, you can identify here, he is a case of ectopia vesicae, and this patient I had done cystectomy because there was a metaplastic change in the urothelium. It was 34 years old at that time. So a repair of epispadias complex and diversion into Menzies pouch and mitrophenol with the appendix was put in. And for 18 years, he continued to do it very easily and there was no problem. But as we know, whenever we are doing a urinary diversion, in urinary diversion cases, there is more incidence of stone formation. So after 18 years of this, he came back and now he presents with left loin pain. Ultrasound KUB shows mild to moderate hydronephrosis on left side, and this is the X-ray pelvis. Can you see something? Not? See it more closely. Can you see something? See it on your screen? No? Come more closely and see, can you identify something here? Lying horizontally. This is the stone in the left ureter. And CT urography confirmed that there is a dye excretion on the left side. And I know that when the patient will be taken in, and when I will be doing a pouchoscopy, when I'll put my ureteroscope inside, there will not be possibility that I will be able to find the ureteric orifice. And this is what happens in all the diversion cases. So once you are not able to identify, already you have given the contrast, the kidney is being opacified. Immediately I turned the patient prone. The contrast had shown the left kidney very nicely, just punctured that particular area only with the needle with the superior calyceal area so that I can direct my needle towards the PUJ and pass the guide wire through this. So there is no track made, no incision made, just a needle puncture and guide wire has gone in, and fortunately it could cross the stone and came into the pouch. Now the patient was turned supine again and the guide wire was brought outside. And once the guide wire, both the ends are with you, then you can just stretch it like this. In the right hand, the guide wire, both the ends of the guide wire are stretched up. Now you can easily identify the ureteric orifice. Leave a feeding tube here so that you don't do over dilatation or over distension of the pouch. With the ureteroscope, go in by the side of this guide wire, go in towards the stone. Under vision, you pass another guide wire, then do the track dilatation up to the stone. And then after that, I passed a ureteral access sheath. So once the ureteral access sheath was put up to the stone, even rigid ureteroscope was possible. And this is the double gestat. So this is how you should anticipate that there is going to be a trouble. You will not be able to identify the pelvic calyceal system, and IV contrast will become to your readily help. So message is very clear. In antegrade passage of guide wire is more physiological and comfortable and successful in cases of unfavorable ureters. You will find even such ureters which you cannot pass guide wire from below. If you pass a guide wire, it may perforate and go outside. But when you try to do an antegrade guide wire placement, it will go easily through this. And when you stretch both the ends of the guide wire, it becomes a straight ureter and you are able to manage ureters endoscopically. This was still a very typical situation in a government hospital with a very poor patient, a 3-year-old female child who was having recurrent UTI and pain right loin since 6 months. She was referred to me, and this was her history. She was born with a cloacal abnormality and multicystic left kidney. So underwent multiple surgeries, out of which one was left nephrectomy, one was cystectomy, and a pediatric surgeon had done a right ureterosigmoidostomy. 3 years, this is maybe about 2 years later after this ureterosigmoidostomy, now the patient has got stone in her right kidney. Her creatinine is also little increased, so you cannot do a IV contrast. And now this is the situation. This is the plain X-ray. This is the CT scan. You can see the infection stone inside. And this is the sigmoid. This is not the bladder. This is the sigmoid, which is filled with urine. I am sure if I do a sigmoidoscopy with ureteroscope, I will not be able to identify the ureteric orifice. But at the same time, if you study the X-ray very carefully, you can see air in the pelvic ileal system. If you see it carefully, this is the air into the colon in the hepatic flexure, and this is the air which is opacifying the pelvic ileal system, and this is the air in the stomach. So you should be familiar with the air in the abdomen. And now it was very easy when the patient was turned prone. Obviously, there was no possibility of ureteric catheterization. When the patient was turned prone, in the Siam image, I could see the air-filled kidney, and this is the hepatic flexure. So I had to just puncture this air-filled kidney, and when I injected the contrast, immediately I could opacify the pelvic ileal system and the ureter as well as the sigmoid pouch. This was a post-op nephrostogram which shows it all. So easily with the air as a guidance, I could remove the stone, but this does not happen in every case. So these are the possibilities. You should use IV contrast, but way long ago when the patient is under your control, you should inject contrast. You can do a stone guided puncture, and once you start feeling stone and you are sure in 0 degree 30 degree that you are on the stone, you are sure you are in the pelvic ileal system, only then inject the contrast, otherwise extravasation will occur. Then if you have the facility, very good, ultrasound guided puncture can be done, or you can do a blind puncture as per bony landmarks. You should identify, study the X-ray very carefully. You should see the situation of the stone. You should see the distance of the stone from the 12th rib, or from how much distance it is from the vertebral column, and then with the 3 centimeter below or 2 centimeter above, like that you can do a blind puncture with the bony landmarks. And so far, fortunately, I have never failed in even in blind puncture just with the bony landmarks. Sometimes if there is a double J stent, maybe broken double J stent inside, any radio opacity inside the system, then you can follow that. If you are not able to place the ureteric catheter, you can puncture, inject the contrast and opacify the system. And the next puncture you should make according to your track, what you want to do, and do the PCNL. The next problem, which is a contrast extravasation. This is not very uncommon because the stone remains impacted sometimes at the PUJ. And when the patient comes to operation theater, he is dehydrated. System is almost holding the pelvic the stone there. There is edema, there is mucosal growth. And when you pass the ureteric catheter, it is very easy to perforate. Even a guide wire can perforate and go outside the system. So when in the beginning you are injecting the contrast, the first half cc of contrast should be injected when your foot switch is on and you are seeing where the contrast is going. If you inject 10 cc or 15 cc of contrast and there is a lot of extravasation right from the beginning, you are under stress. So always inject contrast when the patient is prone, your needle is there, and minimum contrast is being injected. So this is not very uncommon. If this situation takes place, you should always use the most diluted contrast in the beginning just to opacify the system. So that if there is extravasation, you can wait for 10 minutes and then you can inject a small quantity of higher concentration of contrast so that you can see the pelvic ileal system within the extravasation. And this is your second chance when you can puncture the pelvic ileal system, go inside, and then once you are inside, then the things will be sorted out. So this is the method of injecting contrast with the minimum. And another thing is, when you are finding contrast extravasation, don't go on using too much of contrast, use more saline. Bring the ureteric catheter slowly down, down, down till you are sure that this is in the pelvic ileal system or in the upper ureter. Then through that you can pass a zebra guide wire or a terumo guide wire. Terumo guide wire is going into the pelvic ileal system. It will go and coil somewhere into the pelvic ileal system. So once you have a coil of pelvic ileal system, inject saline and puncture in the coil of the guide wire. You will hit the saline, and once you are sure you are in the pelvic ileal system, then you inject contrast from the needle and opacify the system. So these are the other options. Either go back to the ultrasound guided puncture, puncture at the tip of the ureteric catheter, or stone guided puncture you can do if there is extravasation, or pass a guide wire through ureteric catheter and puncture in the loop of the terumo guide wire. If it is forming a beautiful loop, it is in a calyx or in the pelvis. Only then it will coil and form a loop. So follow all these and you will be able to do a successful puncture. Thank you very much for a very patient listening.